Are you right? Sail to morning. You keep quoting me.
Hello and welcome to Old Faithful. I'm your host, Matt Trask, Western South Dakota's premier one-eyed guitar cowboy show, whatever I say. I can't remember. Please support my friends at Black Hills Blend Espresso. My thanks to Haggerty's Music Works here on the hill in Rapid City. Look for the big red Stratocaster, left and right-handed, depending on which way you're going here in town. That's important to me. My thanks to the incomparable Johnny Hastings is always making me and my guests look good every other week. Please like, share, and subscribe to Matthew Trask on YouTube. And please, while you're at it, maybe after you watch this video, like Haggerty's Music Works channel. They're doing a lot of cool stuff. I think that's all the preamble I need to do. One more thing. If you, as a musician, and I, as the host of this show, have been in contact about appearing on this show, and then I suddenly stopped contacting you back, please, 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 although I will be slightly embarrassed, reach back out to me, because I would love to have you on the show if I have contacted you. And if I haven't, also please contact. But this guy, bless his heart, after a year, he called me back, texted me, whatever, and said, hey, do you still want me on the show? And I was like, absolutely, I want you on the show. Scott Miller, thank you so much for texting me back.
Yeah.
So I just mentioned you're Scott Miller, and you've apparently, thank you so much, you've watched every episode.
Yeah.
So you know that this is the part of the show where I say, tell me about you, Scott.
Yes. Yeah, my name's Scott Miller. I own and operate a recording studio in downtown Rapid City called Flatiron Recording. And it's also been called several things on the show, like Iron Flats. I've racked the different names, and I'm like, we're getting closer.
Right, sure.
But yeah, so I run Flatiron Recording with my dad.
Okay.
And then I'm also a guitar teacher. And then I play in a band called Dead Marthas.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have way too much to talk about.
Yeah.
But maybe so some of these clowns will remember how to say it. How did you come up with the name Flatiron Recording?
So we were Fire Station 7 for a long time. And then after being so close to the firehouse downtown and having people disgruntledly leave because we weren't a restaurant and I didn't have their reservations.
Sure.
We had to think about what we were doing, and we actually moved buildings.
Okay.
And so when we moved the buildings, we were like, well, we'll just rebrand.
Okay.
And so I was trying to find a way to tie things to the Hills without being Black Hills, like my good friends own Black Hills Vinyl.
Sure.
And I know a lot of the things that are Black Hills.
Black Hills is Black Hills.
Yeah, and even like our rock school program is BH Rock School.
Sure.
And so I was like, I don't want to just do. Yeah, I didn't want to just do that. And so we were looking through stuff, and basically Flatiron was a town that was a little mining town up in the Northern Hills that got totally obliterated.
Okay.
And was just destroyed in a flood. I don't know, in like the 1860s or something.
Wow.
And so there's like one little tiny thing, but it existed.
Okay.
And I was like, well, it's in the Hills. It's cool. And there was no other Flatiron Recording.
Sure.
There was one other Flatiron Recording in New York. I think it's New York. But it's in an actual Flatiron building.
Okay. Sure.
And so I was like, well, that makes sense.
Right.
But there wasn't a whole lot of other correlation.
Right.
So I figured it sounded cool. It rolled off the tongue. Well, I thought it rolled off the tongue, but it.
I had read the pamphlet. Now that you mention it, I remember that story, but I'd completely forgotten it.
Yeah.
I love South Dakota history. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to the Hay Camp Brewery.
Exactly.
When instead of another Black Hills thing, Hay Camp was the original name of this area.
And that's what was cool. That's another thing that we kind of tagged on, because we're like a block from Hay Camp.
Okay, sure.
And so I was like, well, they didn't. They beat us to the cooler one by years.
Sure.
But it was like, well, is there another thing that direction? So.
If you start some new businesses, call me. I know a lot of ghost town names.
I will.
But we got so incredibly much to talk about. Yeah. So you at Flatiron Recording, you do Black Hills Rock School. Tell us a little bit about that.
Rock School is a program we started actually here at Haggerty's.
Okay.
We started that. Oh, I'm gonna get the dates wrong because I always forget. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 years ago.
Okay.
And it was started when the room right behind us, when I was 9 or 10, our parents put us in a band together with one of the original owner's sons.
Okay.
So we practiced here, and I think we were called Room G or something like that. You know, we were just little kids, like 9 years old, playing and getting together and practicing. And so my dad took that idea.
Okay.
And then was like, well, maybe I could do this for other kids, because he was a guitar teacher.
Okay.
And he had bass students and guitar students and different things that didn't have any other person to jam with or play.
Right.
So we started that. We started rock school, or he started rock school, and then I was in it all up and through, you know, up until after high school, or into high school. And then I had started playing in bands and doing stuff myself anyway, but I would still participate and then student teach, and then took over and taught bands myself. So we shut down a little bit during the pandemic, kind of tailed off one semester, and then we did do another semester during, and it went well, but we were filming the concerts, so we are actually going to do a summer session this year.
All right.
And we will be doing it with
does it usually kind of coincide with the school year?
Yeah, no, so we were doing it 4 times a year, so we were doing, you know, we would do 2 to 3 month, or 3-month minimum sessions. Okay. And then it would kind of roll in, like you had the summer one, and then the fall one, and then a winter one, and then a spring one.
Okay.
And it was kind of rolling all year long.
Sure.
And we took a little bit of a break just to get people's heads wrapped around how we're going to do things.
Sure. Yeah.
And we'll come back this summer, full force with it, and have an big outdoor concert and do it in that fashion.
Okay, cool.
Because that's a safe way, because it just was too hard to figure out where to put that many people.
Sure.
When we were having that number of kids and then parents and everything. So.
Right. So you've kind of settled into it already. Your upbringing, music was part of, if I can get this wonky, the tapestry of your life. Your dad's name is Scott Miller Sr., is that correct?
Yes, we're both
Scott. And he is a guitar teacher and bass teacher. Was he in local bands in the area?
Yeah, so he was in a band called Aaron Barron.
Okay.
And they were a touring act in all of South Dakota throughout the 80s.
Okay.
He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They were just inducted in 2019.
Wow. Okay.
Aaron Barron was, along with Asia and some of those other bands at that time, I think. That was the same year, I think. But yeah, so he played all over, did that stuff, and then he came back to Rapid, decided to, he actually worked at the first Haggerty's when it was a department store.
Okay.
And he sold suits out of that Haggerty's.
Oh, sure, okay.
And then
in Bacon Park.
Yep, and then when they opened up the music section, he moved there. And then when they moved up here to the current location, he worked here as a guitar teacher. He didn't ever work in the retail employed by Haggerty's after, because he went down to Kansas City and managed a music store for a while, and then came back here and kind of went from there.
So this might be interesting. You were in a band that a little group of kids, and you might have called yourselves Room G.
I think we're Room G. Yeah.
Do you remember, whatever fashion it took? What was your first performance?
My first performance was Haggerty's used to do a thing called Guitar Wars. And I think they still, or they did at some point, did a version of it again. Right. But they used to do it at the Elks Theater, and it was this big hubbub of guitar players, and then they would have opening bands. Sure. So we at that point were, I think, 11. All right. And so we played in front of the entire Elks Theater, packed out. We played a Creed cover. Wow. Which was, just awesomely terrible to this day.
I bet it was.
I mean, and I spent so much time learning the solo, and doing the whole thing, and it was a lot of fun. It was the thing that got me hooked, because I've literally been in bands ever since that point.
Well, cool. Good for you. But there's nothing like the sinking realization when you get under the lights that the wheels have completely come off.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. We actually did it really well right until the very end. And then the very end, we hit the cue, and it was this part where the song dipped. Right. And then we're supposed to come back up. Oh. Well, I got wildly nervous instantaneously. Okay. And everybody started cheering and clapping. It was the last song, and everyone was going nuts. And I just turned to the band, and I was like, we're we're not gonna play the next part because it's like 30 seconds. So we're done.
Yeah.
And everybody just looked at me like, what are you doing? And I was just like, and I just pulled my cord and I was like, I'm sorry, you can't play without me. and sabotaged it. And I, that was the first time I heard children swear at me.
Oh.
I was like, oh no, everyone's really pissed. But it was one of those things where, it was that catalyst of I was like, oh, that was terrifying, but I probably shouldn't do anything else.
Sure. Yeah.
It's about all I'm built for.
You had the bug.
Yep, I had the bug.
So we will have to move along, but during the recent pandemic that we've had, and they're still going through, did Flatiron Recording meet or exceed your expectations, or did it get tricky?
Yeah, it got tricky. We had to really shift. We shifted hard into like live video performances, live streaming bands. Just kind of had to figure out a way to pivot, and so we did that. We shot like the Judd Hoos promos down there that they've been dropping, but it was touch and go for everybody.
Sure,
and it was just as touch and go for us for a little bit.
Sure,
we were like, do you ride the wave and see if you crash out or if you can make it out, or do you just kind of bow and start selling gear and hopefully you find another But no, yeah, we made it out on the other side. Whoa. And we just got done. We did a Defect, one of my good friends' bands, Defect. We just did their live stream Saturday.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. It's actually the shirt I'm wearing.
Oh, sure.
But other than that, yeah, I mean it's been. It hasn't been as bad as I thought,
Well, so. Good. I'm glad. I think we're all gonna make it.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Seems like we're all forced to switch horses at some point.
Yeah,
and we're gonna come out with new skills.
It is, yeah. It's a good move that we have to make. So
awesome, cool. We need to talk, maybe possibly briefly about your current band and your one glorious show that you've had there. I attended. I'm so proud. I've made all of the Dead Martha shows so far.
Yes. So I'm in a band, Dead Marthas, like I said. We started the band a little over a year ago. More than over a year ago now. We started it in October of 2019.
Okay.
And me and Russ Haddon, he's a photographer in town.
You're welcome on the show, buddy.
He does photography and other stuff around town.
Sure.
But he started recording a record with me.
Okay.
And then I was writing a solo project thing. And one night we got together and we're like, well, let's just hang out and write music together.
Right.
See what happens. And so we started working on each other's stuff.
Okay.
And within about 30 minutes, we were like, we should really just make a band. Because this is ridiculous. Why are we helping each other and then try to go do it ourselves?
Right.
Let's just do it together. And his band was called Dead Spacemen.
Okay.
And my band was called Mother Martha, Father Fred was the name of my band.
It was one of my first followers on Instagram, as I recall.
Yeah. And it's since become several other pages because it's my rotating Instagram.
I couldn't figure out who this was who was following me. I was brand new. I was a nobody on Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way.
And so I started that, and then we got together and we're like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, what do we call it? And I was like, well, let's just call it Dead Marthas. And he was like, oh, that's brilliant. And I was like, I'm really glad I thought of that right now. Yeah. And so we didn't know what to do past that because we're like, okay, we've got some cool riffs, we've got a name. I had songs, we had names, but we didn't know what to do. And I had our drummer Trevor.
Right.
God bless him. He is a saint because I had just basically told him weeks before. I was like, hey, I'm not going to play in a band with you because I just don't want to do it. I'm just the band, and it wasn't him, it was me. I was like, the music I'm writing sucks. Right. I don't want to put people through that, so we're going to call it quits. Right. And he was playing with Brandon Jones at the time. Right. And he was like, oh, okay, well, whatever, and he was bummed at it. Right. And then I called him like 2 weeks later, and I was like, so, little change of plans. I think we might have something. Do you want to mess around with it? And so we got in the studio together, started messing around, started writing stuff, and the Wildebeest, which was our first single.
Right.
Russ started playing a riff, and I was in, and we were like, okay, well, we've got some of these other songs that we'd already written, so we were just like, yeah, we'll kind of mess around, and we wanted to make a teaser video.
Right.
So like, let's just make a teaser video. We just need a heavy riff and like a guitar part, like 30 seconds.
Right.
So we're in the studio, everything's up, everything's going. My dad was engineering, and Russ starts playing this riff, and he starts playing, and Trevor starts playing the beat, and I ran out and I started screaming the lyrics that standing on the edge of Highway 71, howling at the moon like a son of a beep all night long.
Right.
And everybody just stops and like, keep going. What's happening? Keep going. And we literally wrote the song in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
Whole thing front to back, and like all the howling, all the ridiculousness was just completely off the cuff.
The costumes, were they there the first time?
So the costumes were a mistake that we thought it would be funny because we dropped it on Halloween.
Oh, okay.
So the release date was Halloween.
Right.
We had literally no thought post-Halloween what the world looks like with our 3 idiot mugs in costumes.
Sure. Okay.
So we shot the video, dropped it all on Halloween. And I mean, we literally shot the video like 6 days before Halloween.
Okay.
And edited it all together and was finishing mixes and got it all dropped and out the door. We were good. And post that, we realized like, wow, we should not have ever done that because we were going for this idea of like kind of a like no one knows who we are.
Right.
And we'll go because we had a lot of people asking like, who is Dead Martha's?
Right.
All that came out initially was this organ being lit on fire that we actually took an organ from Trichotomy Studio.
Okay.
They were getting rid of.
Okay.
They were going to throw it away. I saw it on Facebook and was like, oh yeah, I'll come grab that.
Right.
Didn't realize it was from the other studio in town, and then felt sheepish that I was like, I'm going to burn this thing. Like, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, I don't know really. And I slid it into my truck. I was
Restore
like,
it?
yeah. And so we drove out to my parents' house. Covered it in like lighter fluid and gasoline.
You guys kind of have a thing for lighting things on fire and filming it, don't you?
We do. And we technically did not blow that car up. On the most recent teaser trailer.
Right.
We had a lot of people ask like, did you actually blow a car up now?
Right.
I was like, no, that's stock footage.
And by the way, based on my experience at all of the Dead Martha shows, they do not light anything on fire.
No. We have not. No, we
safe.
don't. Yes,
very safe.
We're very.
Yeah.
We're a very fire friendly band.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we lit that on fire, and we were just going for like a mystique. We wanted to see if people, if we could keep it all the way to January 25th, that no one knew who was in the band.
Who we were. Okay.
Because, you know, Trevor's in bands, Russ was playing in a band at the time. I hadn't played in a band in 10 years.
Okay.
And ironically, this band is the first band I've ever played guitar in.
Really?
From playing from age 9 to like 20. I never played guitar in a band.
Wow. Huh.
I was a drummer, and then I was a lead. I was like a front man of a pop punk band.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to have to move on.
Yeah.
We are having so much fun, and we have been nerding out.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with, I love this thing, somehow the first SG on the show. Yeah. Go ahead. Quite often I position myself as an expert on gear history, but I bet you could do this. If you want to tell us the history of the SG model as succinctly as possible.
I know a little.
Okay.
Yeah. This is Maggie. It's named after Maggie Gyllenhaal because she's my favorite actress.
I like that right there.
Yeah, it's an early 2000s SG. It's the Faded series.
Sure. Yeah.
That they put out that were like $600 or something.
Right.
And I actually bought it the day before my son was born.
Oh, wow.
Because I saw it. I'd been looking for a guitar, and I just saw it online and was like, oh, that's the one I'm kind of wanting.
Right.
And so called the guy and talked to him, and he was cool. But as far as I know, the SG was designed as like a kid's guitar. It was a design for like not necessarily kids, but people with smaller hands, younger. Like it was designed as not the professional in the stance of like the Les Paul.
Okay.
Was like the thing that like your dad played,
right?
And then he got you the SG. And I'm not. That's as far as like what I've known about it, but I don't know much more about.
Well, I'm going to tell a completely different story.
Okay, yeah. So tell them, yeah.
Yeah. So the Gibson company came out with the Gibson Les Paul, I believe in 1954. I could be wrong about that, but both Gibson and Fender recording the big deal at the time, recording legend Les Paul.
Okay, yeah.
To endorse a guitar. And Leo Fender sent him a Telecaster, and he really didn't like it. And Gibson sent him this very beautiful archtop, maple top guitar with 2 pickups. And he said, yeah, I like that. And so he endorsed the Gibson Les Paul. And there were several modifications to it until the kind of the crowning glory of the 59 Les Paul burst that we all know and love. When they didn't know it was a big deal at the time, but it's since become a huge deal. And then in 61, and I may have some of these dates wrong, Gibson, we really don't know why, just completely discontinued that guitar entirely and came out with this, which looked radically different from the Les Paul that we all knew and loved.
There's the pictures with Les Paul and the big white one,
right?
With the big triple pickup, and
they apparently didn't tell him. They just slapped his name on the new guitar that looked nothing, and Les Paul said something like, take my name off of this monstrosity.
Oh, wow.
And so then it
that.
became, and in another remarkable lapse of Gibson judgment, SG, as I understand it, stands for solid guitar. They just ran out of ideas.
That would make sense. Gibson has not always been on the forefront of thinking.
So tell us more about Maggie. Have you done anything to it?
Nope, just the chicken head knobs and the cream pickguard.
Okay.
As far as electronics, everything's stock.
By the way, aesthetically beautiful choices. I love that.
Yeah, these are off an old Vox amp.
Okay.
That had died, and I just harvest everything off an amp.
Right, sure.
If it's totally trashed, and then I just put it in boxes in different places at the studio. So found these and then switched this out because it had a black one and it didn't stand out.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to like stick a little more out.
Right.
And I just kept going with it.
It's doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how long have you had it? No.
I've had it for almost 8 years.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So your son is 8 years old.
Yep. He'll be 8 in October, and that's when I bought it. So.
And the original nut, original everything.
Yep.
Does it? It's not a diva. It holds up pretty well.
I had to kind of learn. Yeah, I had to kind of learn how to replay it a little bit because it plays out of tune. Like if you really like.
Okay.
And that's not bending down. Right. That's just straight pushing flat.
Oh.
It will push itself out of tune pretty bad.
Huh.
And so it,
right.
just by a straight press. So I had to kind of relearn how to not press so hard.
Does it have gigantic frets?
Not really.
No? It doesn't really.
No.
Huh.
She just likes to get a little
very sensitive.
But it helps when I do stuff like the
right? Yeah. Sure.
That kind of stuff really, really moves well. And I pray to God I never break the neck, but it does do like the dive bombs really well.
Hey, well, just be careful.
Yeah. But, so I mean, other than that, she's on stock.
Do you play with a backup in all the massive touring schedule of the Dead Martha?
Yeah. I don't have a backup right now.
Okay.
I have other guitars that I play.
Right.
I don't have anything that directly replaces this one well.
Sure. Yeah.
I play. Russ has a super rad Fender thin line, a Tele thin line.
Okay.
That is the big what is it? The 75, the like full frame humbuckers.
Right. Wide range.
Yeah, wide range.
Yeah.
Is that the 72 reissue or
72?
Yeah.
Custom reissue.
So he's got one of those.
So does it have the Strat headstock then too?
No, it's got the Telecaster headstock.
Okay.
And or maybe it does have the Strat headstock.
I've only played
it a few times, but that would be my only thing for a backup at the moment.
Sure.
I will probably, once things chill out and we start going on tour, I will probably pick up another one of these.
Sure.
But for the time being, it wasn't necessary.
Right. if you will turn it over once, I don't know if we can catch this. It does look like there's been considerable wear on the back of the neck. Did you do most of that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
I also have like greasy little palms. I'm a sweaty little guy sometimes, and so
but
so I
that's
do.
A sign
it does.
Of a guitar that's well loved.
Yeah. So and I play it fairly aggressively.
I think they were kind of finished to show wear somewhat quickly.
And the Faded series has no, like, it doesn't have like a super thick like finish on it. Mm-hmm. It's more of like that spray lacquer style that they would do like on just a neck or whatever.
Sure.
On some of the other guitars, that's what it kind of has on the whole thing.
Sure.
So it's wearing out up here for me.
Right.
It's wearing out back here a little bit from that.
So this is Old Faithful, and this is your Old Faithful.
Oh, yes.
Was this on every Dead Martha song? Has it been on every song so far?
It has, and it's funny because it's been recorded on every song, but the one thing that is different is that in the video for the Wildebeest, I play my Mustang.
Oh,
but the Mustang's barely on. It's like little solo pieces or maybe a little double.
All right.
But this has been recorded.
Okay. So that was my next question. There were other guitars. Mm-hmm. Dead Martha's rather heavy. Do we do any acoustic tracks that we bury in the mix?
No.
We light her up off the bat.
We try to just. Our goal is to be as close to what you hear live as what comes out on the record. So
awesome.
There isn't a lot of extra things.
Sure.
I double up the guitars every once in a while and stuff, but even that they have to really like pin out of me to do.
You bet. Let's move on to he brought his whole rig, and we're going to get into this bad boy in a second. Let's quickly go through the pedal board, which I love. We'll give a shout out to the builder, maybe, in the case over here in the corner.
Yeah, so Dan Carroll from bands like
you're also welcome on the show, buddy.
Mildred and Wake Singers and some other bands. He built this pedal board for me.
Okay.
And then so I just run into the tuner first.
Right.
I have a Jam Pedals Dinosaur compressor.
Okay.
And then it's routed really crazy because it looks like it's all going in one direction.
Right.
But it actually goes Jam, and then I have a Fuzz War by Death by Audio.
Okay.
And Death by Audio I've been a huge fan of theirs forever.
First Death by Audio pedal on the show, I do.
Yeah, and they make amazing pedals. They did a collaboration with, I think, Earthworks or JHS or one of those. But so the Death by Audio, then it goes into this Is Not a Fuzz gross little purple pedal.
Okay.
Which is actually a Electro Harmonix double muff.
Okay.
But I didn't like the logoing on it, and so I stripped it and tried to paint it.
Right.
And I made it so much worse and so much uglier. And so I was like, well, it's getting worse. And so I just had my Rife White write This Is Not a Fuzz on it, because I was like, whatever. I kind of just use it as like a boost. When it's real,
more.
Just a little more high end, because this Fuzz War,
oh wow,
it can do a lot of weird stuff.
Yes, it can.
But I also I can't get down on my knees and play.
Right.
There are some songs where I do,
where
I hit something and there's a lot of noise and I'm messing with stuff. But this just kind of helps, just even out that high end a little, cut a little more through stuff.
You bet.
And then I've got Electro Harmonix Holy Grail. And then that goes into this Digitech Mosaic, which it's a 12-string emulator pedal.
Okay.
I don't use it for what it's designed for.
Okay.
It basically, when I use that one, it's like, and it just does a weird, if it's off.
Right.
It's kind of dead, and then it
just makes it more gutter.
Yeah, it adds a weird thing to when it goes into the chorus.
Right.
That it kind of, I don't know. It's a funky setup.
And we like it.
But it's cool. I basically use that one for like a noise.
Sure.
For just a noise pedal.
You bet.
And I really like the Holy Grail because it's got like the spring hall, the flurb setting.
I love those pedals too.
Mm-hmm.
There's Never mind.
Yeah.
But I have one. I do love it. It's just a very good, decent.
It's a really clean, not super expensive reverb pedal.
And it
does what you want. Yeah.
It does two jobs, really. Yeah. So, has this pedal board stayed the same? Because I believe you have access to more pedals.
Yeah, it has. It's gone through a bunch of different iterations.
Okay.
One of the worst ones was when I got the Fuzzware, because it's so big.
Right.
That it really threw a wrench in how I had stuff mapped out. But I've run. It took me a long time to get like the distortion I was looking for.
Right.
Because this thing is 215s.
Right.
It just reacts differently.
Sure.
Like than a 412. It's not as hard, but for some reason, getting this to distort the way I wanted it to just wasn't doing it.
Right.
So that's where the Fuzz War came in. Because the Fuzz War can get really, really, really nasty. Really angry if I wanted to. But yeah, so it's had different iterations, but for the most part, everything but the Fuzz War has always been on it.
Okay.
And then it's just, I've interlaced different distortion and fuzz and different versions of that. So
I have to ask one question.
Yeah.
Did we try the Boss DS1 at any point?
Is that the orange one?
Yeah, the orange one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had one of those. Yep. And I tried. It was good.
It was close.
It was close. It just didn't. Like I said, with these 215s, it just felt like it didn't push the same way. And see, with this, like, because this one has
oh my!
It has a volume control on it that I can push this really hard and have this really quiet. Like I can have this on, 2.
Right.
And then the rest of this make it feel like it's up in like 5 or 6.
Wow.
With just the pedal.
Sure.
And so that flexibility and that ability to like crush through walls with with just the pedal, I was sold on that past the other stuff.
Boy, I'm seeing we haven't even, that thing's not even sweating.
No, yeah.
Wow.
This thing
that
is
a
real
nasty
monster.
little bugger.
Yeah.
We got to get to this. This cab is like an ideal steel guitar setup, really. So it would have been hard pushing
and most likely was bought that way.
Right. Yeah.
Because so the cab is a 1968 Fender Bandmaster.
Okay.
Drip edge.
Right.
This is a
love
70s,
them buzzwords, buddy.
This is a 70s Bassman 50. I don't know the exact age on this.
Okay.
But I have the Bandmaster head for this, but I don't like to use it because it's really nice.
Right.
This thing I paid not a lot of money for, and I don't mind beating the Bassman 50 around.
Right.
Because it's not as rare as the other one I had. And this just has a nasty sound to it too.
In the absence of the other one, we wouldn't know. But is this head pretty close to sonically to the other?
Sonically, it is very similar. Okay. It's not as jewelly clean.
Okay.
Like with this one being it just doesn't quite cut in the same. It doesn't quite cut like the Bandmaster does. The Bandmaster's really nice and clean.
Sure.
But it's they're all 60s to 70s Fender heads, so they're all sonically they can do pretty close to the same stuff.
Sure. What wattage would this be?
This is a 50 watt.
It's a 50 watt. Okay. Do we don't have time to go into the tube complement, but is it original? To the best of your knowledge?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, there's still Fender tubes in there. I don't know if it was retubed at some point since like 76 or whenever it was made. But I haven't done anything to it. It needs a little work. I've been putting off before because we have a show in Utah at the end of May that we're going down there to play with some bands. And so I might need to run it into the dock before then.
Okay. But after that show, my attendance at Dead Martha shows may drop to 50%. Dang it!
But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's been a super great head for me.
Well, that's awesome. And we need to now. We've showcased the Kempers and the Tech 21s and all the newest. We went back old school where we're pushing some air. Now we can't really do it in this room, but this is how we used to do it with large amounts of speakers, pushing massive amounts of air. Tell us about this cab. You were telling me a little about it.
It's just a big 215, and
right.
It gives me the ability to put enough low end,
right?
Because we're only a 3-piece,
right?
And Russ has a tendency to like to get kind of grindy and a little bit higher register with his bass parts, and so we were trying to figure out how do we really sink in so that we don't ever lose that low rumble.
Right.
So when I drop down to something lower, and it, it still holds up really well in the low register, but then it still will cut through clean on the higher stuff. And I've got some pedals to kind of, like we said, kind of counteract that if I need to get a little cleaner. But
And this very quickly, 215 means there are in this cabinet 2 15-inch speakers. Yeah. And you said there were replaced speakers.
Yeah, so somebody had to, because the cab was made in 68, but somebody had to have in the late 70s, early 90s, early 80s, replaced it with Realistack or Realist. It was some pun name.
Okay.
It was an American-made company that were doing speakers, and they were selling them through Radio Shack.
Right.
So Radio Shack basically was just like, yeah, we'll sell them for you. You build them, but we're gonna put our name somewhere on them.
Okay.
They sound good.
Right.
I bought another one of these cabs that ended up being totally stock and pristine from the 60s, which I was bummed because I sold it directly before I looked in it.
Oh.
So I sold it, then we took it apart, and then I was like, damn, I should have looked in there. But other than that, it still moves air. They're still, they're big magnets on the back as far as the speakers go. So I think they were possibly designed for PA speakers or something, because the company mainly did record players. Stuff like that. So.
But it sounds good. We like it.
Yeah, it's still...
I'm getting the impression you get your overdrive, your distortion and fuzz from the pedal. You don't run this very loud on stage.
No, not super hot. And so I do have it piggybacked.
Okay.
So when you piggyback it, basically you're running
both channels.
Yeah, so you can hear the...
Right, yeah.
The funny thing is that this one doesn't... it introduces noise.
Right.
But this volume knob doesn't work.
Oh.
However, Dan Carroll's, his 61, this volume knob controls it. So I think that Fender was trying to work out the bugs so that you couldn't do this.
Oh, I see.
Because both channels are active.
Okay.
When he plays through that, whereas this one is not. And I don't know, or maybe I've rattled it enough to where something fell apart in there.
So, do you run it about this volume?
No,
again, one show.
Yeah, when we practice and when we play live, it's definitely way louder than this.
Okay.
But not terribly louder. It will be somewhere in that.
Okay. All right.
But when you get after it and when you start putting the pedals behind it, it gets a little nasty. So
I see.
But yeah, there's not a lot else on the... It's kind of a bare bones setup in the sense of just the pedals I needed for it.
Right.
I really was looking... I've been looking for Bassmans for years.
Right.
Technically, it is because of Johnny.
Okay.
Because the first person I ever saw play Bassman was Johnny, and I remember seeing that and being like, "Whoa, what is that?" And then I started looking into it. And then my older brother is he has, if he didn't live in California, I'd bring him on. He has a Fender from every year and every flavor, and tweeds, cream, the cream versions, and he's the total Fender aficionado.
Okay.
But I was looking for these because I knew the Bassmans are a great platform for pedals, and I didn't want an amp that, because I have I've got Mesas, and Mesas and Marshalls and other things at the studio, and they're cool, but my thing was I always wanted something that would be super clean, and would do its job by itself here, and then whatever I interchange here was just directly represented. there wasn't something where I had to tweak the way the distortion worked because half of it's from the cab and the head and half of it's from the pedal board.
Right.
I was looking for just a real strict pedal platform.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and it looks right.
Yeah, it
really
looks
does.
cool. When it looks nice when you've got an 810 bass cab on one side and you have a 215 guitar cab that
rock and roll
symmetry-wise with a 3-piece.
Yes.
You feel a little bit more rounded.
And we have to mention this again at the one show.
Yeah.
When they stopped playing, there was noise as Jesus intended.
No noise.
I loved it.
It's
yeah. Very cool. Are we ready to play something after I say a few words?
Yeah.
Do we have anything more to talk about? We could do a 5-hour show.
Oh, we easily could.
But we can't. We have jobs and stuff.
So
you have a wife.
Yep, I do.
Yeah.
I've got a wife and a kid.
And a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bet. Remember my sponsorship with Trask Hay LLC. Large, round, and square bales, 515-0858. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Scott, for being on the show. Yeah. I do appreciate it. Remember to get a hold of me if we've been in contact. And let's see here. Mr. Link Ray says change your strings for no reason whatsoever. Give her hell, buddy.
All right, thank you. All right.
That's the show. Thanks for watching.